I've got a brand new guest for you today. I have the lovely Jen Chaney. Jen has had an incredible journey. It's been a very soulful journey. We're going to dig into what that means momentarily. But Jen is an intuitive psychic medium. She's a twin flame grief support coach and certified spiritual life advisor. And Jen, what got you started on that path?
Oh, hello. Many things, but a few years ago, late in 2023, I experienced um, a series of losses. And that is really what kicked off the ultimate dark night of the soul, spiritual awakening, and that put me on my path to do what I'm doing now, which is helping others through their grief and their transcendence and all of those things to really help them get through it.
So you got the healer starter kit bundle.
I did.
I was really lucky. I will say that. I had a very long, slow development from the point that I was like early childhood. So nothing felt rushed or too pressured for me. And I'm kind of really grateful for that because some of these souls who come in and take like the full advanced mode, let's go. Uh, you guys are
Absolutely.
way courageous and brave. I really honor you for that. I'm lucky that it
Yeah.
was the pace that it was for me. But
Yeah,
what was that
absolutely.
like to just wave after wave have all of those activating events? And how at what point did you start
Yeah.
to recognize, "Oh, this is, an opportunity. This isn't just."
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to say there were some things, along the way, little breadcrumbs in past years, because I've had and experienced a lot of loss throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I think that my soul really needed to shake me this time, because there were little inklings kind of along the way that made me realize, that there was more to this, and I knew those things, but it wasn't until I was really, really jolted and that just kind of spiraled into there must be more. Where did they go? And then um, so post loss, it really opened my eyes to I was just at a really, really dark time. I spent a few months to where I just shut the entire world out. I didn't really want to. I just didn't want to be a part of the world anymore. I didn't want to be here. And I was kind of in between these two worlds, it felt like. And I was at the same time experiencing tremendous synchronicities, things that were kind of felt like something was trying to get my attention. And then so I started down that path to kind of learn more about why and where is this coming from, and what are they trying to tell me? Um,
What
and
were some
so,
of those
yeah,
little synchronicities that you were starting to notice?
a lot of numbers, a lot of things that were in tune with my thoughts. I would have to say that was one of the earliest synchronicities were the constant reoccurring numbers. I would wake up in the middle of the night and just feel this urge to look at my phone, and it would be 4:44. And there's just no way that is random. It was so much in my face that I thought, what are they trying to tell me? And then that really just kind of led me down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it did, because I was in a really dark place. But now I see that was the journey that my soul was meant to take, and that's what needed to happen to put me on this path. And now I can do what I love to do and lead a more fulfilling life.
I think a lot of people have those initial sequence of events. They have a really, life-shifting, changing loss. They have, things start to fall apart. and they don't see that it's part of something bigger. I
Right.
know at least
Right.
for myself, I certainly didn't. When I went through that first divorce, I did not see how that was going to be for my benefit at all. Um,
Right.
yeah, but I think it absolutely needed to happen. And then along the way, I did have little synchronicities and things too. There were a couple of dreams that validated of, oh, you need to go
Mhm.
have this experience. This is on time for your soul's mission. And
Right.
I think
Right.
those little moments can kind of fortify our systems. They can kind of embolden us. They can give us that little bit of inspiration or courage to follow the crazy thing that we're not supposed to do, or that we
Absolutely.
maybe wouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And dreams were very significant early on for me as well. Because the dreams that I would have, there were a few where I mean, they were very much like another dimension, some sort of oasis, if you will, but it was so real. And I don't know how my mind would have made that up, especially because I was in such a dark place. It was almost like this escape, and but it was leading me towards to know that there is more, and there are other dimensions, and there's a lot more to explore. It's endless.
And so that's when you started to have those first couple of glimpses of what happens when you lose someone that you love.
Right. Yeah.
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 And where did you go from there? What happened next?
So one of the very earliest things that I knew, that I might be picking up on something internally. I've always been sort of like an overthinker, but I would have a lot of thoughts that would come and go, and they would seem so random. And it would say, where is this coming from? What am I picking up on? So I kind of always had that in the back of my mind. And I've always been fascinated with mediumship and animal communication. And so one of the very earliest things was, in my darkest time, I would just sit by the window, and I would just watch outside and just try to soak up the beauty and try to look for things. And of all things, I noticed actually that animals, birds, squirrels, I was getting impressions from them. And that led to kind of say, well, what if I stretch this a little bit further, and I ask them something, and then I would kind of get another impression, and I'm like, this is insane. And there were things a lot to do with animals really early on. I remember I would try to do things, for other people to make myself feel better, because I was in such a bad place. And my neighborhood actually has had some stray cats, and it was winter time, and I was building some cat boxes. So then I'm sitting there, and I'm working on them all day, and I'm thinking about these cats that I'm going to make these styrofoam boxes, and maybe they'll have shelter. And then when I went to take them outside, there were two cats sitting there waiting, like they knew that I was they, that I had been working on this, and that never had that anything like that happen before. But that was really the earliest signs. And then from there, I actually went and visited a medium. And one of the first things that she told me was, she said, "You do what I do." I said, "Well, really?" Because I've been wondering, I've been getting some things. And she was kind enough to actually kind of quiz me. And she said, "I'm going to tell you, I have a friend, and I'm going to give you her name, and I want you to tell me something about her." And automatically in my, third eye, I saw books. And here, she's a avid reader, an author.
Uh,
And so it was really eye opening. And then from there, I just kind of started throwing out information anytime I could, to kind of see what I was getting. And at that time, I was working for the county,
yeah.
for the government, and at a desk job. And I just kind of started practicing around with my coworkers and seeing what I could get. And I was just amazed. I couldn't even believe it myself. Everything was so spot on, and it was like, yes, yes, this is what I'm meant to do. This is what brings me joy. Nothing else but this is really bringing me joy. And so I just jumped all in.
Yeah. And then, um, where did you go from there? Just starting to test the abilities to understand how you work better and finding limits
Right.
or lack thereof?
Reading. Yeah, I just wanted to get as much information as I possibly could. I really wanted to see, because I had always watched, some other psychic mediums and how they worked. I was always fascinated by it, but
Yeah.
and a lot of those things click, and we're all different in the way that we read. So, but I just wanted to learn. I couldn't learn enough. I just really engulfed myself in all of that, and kind of seeing how I could kind of use some of those tools to bring forward the information that I was getting. Yeah.
I really feel like that is a trademark of spiritual awakening is that unquenchable thirst for knowledge. And it's that knowledge that's not in your standard textbook. It's the deeper,
Right.
the
It
questions of
is.
the soul for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carl Jung played a huge part in all of that. I mean, when I was getting my undergraduate degree in psychology, in that class, I had kind of grazed over that subject. I knew about him, and I knew that that was kind of the grandfather of synchronicity. And then it just unraveled a lot from there. And I really learned about, the awakening path, the dark night of the soul. And I resonated so deeply with that. And that really helped me along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was before the loss had happened. So it just kind of goes to
It
show you there
was,
were some little key cornerstones of your foundation.
there were,
Similar to
yeah.
mine, there was lots from early childhood. And it's like, of course, I'm doing what I'm doing and not doing something else. All of it was there, but you had those little key things in place that maybe you didn't kind of look at in that moment because you had other goals and aspirations.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And now I feel like that was kind of part of my soul, and showing me these things, but it wasn't enough to really awaken me to what was out
Yeah.
there. And it's not all pretty, after that dark night of the soul, and even during it, there was
Yeah.
so much grief, so much despair, and a lot of, that led me to my shadow work. And yeah, so, and through that shadow work is really where I started to find myself. And as Jung would say, the self-actualization, individualization, that's really where I started to find myself. And then a lot of things surfaced, and I think that's partly where I discovered you, because I thought, I was still having some panic, some things that I just couldn't get to the bottom of. And then I had the IEMT therapy, which was great with really getting to some of those.
And it still makes me laugh to this day because you could have seen any IEMTer, but you
Yeah,
pick the
yeah.
one that teaches mediumship and that lives this life regularly.
Isn't that something? Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
It's great.
laughing that day and telling you, yeah, you definitely got the right one. It's
Absolutely. I
priceless.
was guided to you. Yeah,
And so that helped facilitate some of the healing that you needed to. For the
it
people in
did.
the audience who aren't familiar with Dark Night of the Soul, how would you explain that for them in case they might be going through it and they don't know that term?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really just where your soul, well, I think it's your soul trying to wake you up, obviously, but it just, it's at your lowest point, the lowest point that you can really imagine in your life, um, where everything's dark. I mean, it really is just despair. And from there, that darkness is where you really look for the light, because you just, you know, you can't end it. You must go on, and you know that there has to be a purpose. And I thank my guides and my spirit team for the synchronicities, because Not that I was suicidal, but it really was this constant reminder that, hey, like there's really a purpose to this, and so I would just really always recommend that you look for those things, look
Yeah.
for the little nuances and the repetitive things, or the things that you might say, well, that's just a coincidence, but now I know there are no coincidences, and it's really just your soul, lining you up. But yeah, I think that's the only other way for me to explain it. It's just utter despair. Yeah.
I like that you explain it as it's your soul waking you up. I tend to go from the opposite route, and it's just because of the experience that I had with it myself. And for me, it's more of the death of the ego. The ego
Yeah.
tends to tell us that things have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And when I get clients that
Yeah.
come and see me who are in the midst of that dark night of the soul, sometimes I will rebrand it kind of like Robert Ohotto, one of my favorite authors, used to do. He'd say it was Dark Night of the Ego because it's the ego that's
Yeah.
dying and the ego's vision of how your life should be that's now being deconstructed.
Absolutely.
And then the more that you cling to it and you hold on to it, the more painful it gets because it is the
It
soul
does.
redirecting to say, okay, that's cute.
Right.
Now it's time to do what you were planted here for.
Exactly. And that's kind of the longer version of it, because it's not a quick thing. It's a process, the dark night of the soul. It's a
Yeah.
complete rebranding of who you are, and a birth of who you are. It's not a new you. I mean, it is a new you, but it's not even a new version of the old you.
Right.
And
I
so
think
a
for
lot
a
of
lot of
things fall
people,
apart.
that's the moment where they're like, "Oh, I'm not just this. There's more." And then they start to
Right.
have that realization of, "Ah, I'm a soul. I'm having a spiritual experience in a human body." And they open to
Right.
those kinds of concepts more. At least that was my experience. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So it's a bigger awakening moment. And so you
Yeah.
came through the dark night of the soul. You used a little bit of IEMT that helped you.
Hmm.
Then I think as we were working on one of your IEMT sessions, you're like, oh, I'm booked to go to Arthur Finley.
Yeah. 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 I just on a whim, right after, right after the new year, I started thinking, okay, I'm gonna take this seriously. Um, and so, there was that whole year where I thought, okay, I think I can do this. There might be a way. And the more I just searched, and one random day, I thought, I'm just going to go to a school. I want to
It's
take
cute.
this
One
seriously.
random day. No, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just on a
No, not one
whim.
random day.
Yeah. Yeah. It just,
It was directly in alignment. Your soul is like, oh,
yeah.
here next.
Right. It really was, because I didn't even know anything about Arthur Finley College before I booked it. I just
For
thought,
those who don't, how would you
yeah.
describe it?
Well, it's the spiritualist school in England. It's located in Essex, England, and they've been around for quite some time. But uh, that is the place to learn about spiritualism. It's the home of the Spiritualist National Union, and um, you know it's magical. I do know that it was life changing. It really was.
That's a more accurate way of describing it than typically I do. I usually say it's the Disneyland of mediums,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could
or
say that.
The Hogwarts of mediumship.
Right, right. Yeah,
And that is a place where people go to learn. The beautiful thing about spiritualism and mediumship is that you do not have to practice spiritualism to be a medium, and you don't have to vice versa either.
right. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, spiritualism is a, it's hard to explain a little bit, but it is a system of belief, not necessarily a religion, but kind of a spirituality that is built on looking for evidence of proof after life. And so there are um, mental mediums, emotional mediums, there are physical mediums who do just that, and they incorporate things like healing in their services. Really, really
Right.
cool experience to have. Did you get to attend
Yeah.
any of the? Yeah,
Um, well, you mean which attend?
any of the spiritualist services that they might have had?
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. There was services, which I loved, and I know now that spiritualism is really where my heart is. I grew up semi-religious, went to a Baptist church, and so I always kind of picked my beliefs from here or there, but I really found that to be my home that really resonated, because they share a lot of the same values that I share. So it was just amazing. Yes. Yes.
yeah. It is quite unique. It is very, very different. I had an opportunity to go a couple of times, once in Lilydale when I went for training because they hold
Mm.
regular spiritual services and healing services there too. And then when I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, Rita Berkowitz also held services in, I want to say, Braintree First Spiritualist Church. And then there were some also on one of the nearby reservations too. It is quite an experience.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
for those of us, especially the ones who grew up with mediumship as children, they're like, oh, finally somewhere where I fit as a puzzle piece.
Right, right. A lot
Yeah.
of demonstrations that, which is very fascinating. It's fun. I enjoyed a lot of that. Yeah.
And it's a mediumship demonstration when you want a mediumship demonstration, not just because someone's walking through the grocery store and has the sudden urge to
Right,
throw it at you without boundaries. I talk about that a
right.
lot. Because really, there are times and spaces to practice mediumship. I mean, we're going through people's lives, their connections, and
Right.
it really, really bugs me when someone doesn't
Yeah.
practice healthy boundaries with that.
Yeah, because it is so sacred, and it is such a sensitive subject for some people. Some people are just raw with emotion, and so you don't want to ruin their day. So I definitely get that. I'm not brave enough to approach anyone. I mean, I did, like I said, play around with some, of my ex coworkers and things like that, but these were people I knew.
Yeah.
So,
People who knew, who were open and in a safe environment to receive that, not someone who has to get in their car and drive while they're emotionally dysregulated. I don't want that responsibility at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
So it's,
absolutely.
you say it's not brave, but I think it's appropriate. And you're practicing really healthy boundaries with your mediumship at that point.
Yes.
And so when you went to Arthur Findlay, how did that impact your journey? What was that like?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, I didn't really have any expectations. I just thought this is where I'm going to go to learn, and I really underestimated how much of an experience it was, that I would have because I had one of the best tutors there. Her name was Wendy Lyon, and the room that we were in, we got to be in the library at the college, and it holds such great energy there. And when I say magical, I mean it really was. It felt like the veil was very thin. And so being amongst, other mediums that were developing the same as myself, that was great. And so we spent a lot of time practicing with each other. And
That in itself is huge. Um,
it is.
Having done mediumship training, had the experience, but also facilitating mediumship training, you see it all the time. The more mediums are together, the stronger we get to hold and bridge the vibration. And so
Yeah,
messages can come through so much more effectively. And then the fun thing is you get to play little games. You get to see who
right.
picks up on what, because there might be a medium who's really, really powerful with the clear empathy. And you may have someone else who's just very clear cognitive, and then yet another one who's good at, like, the medical intuition. And so it's fun to kind of piggyback and ping pong to deliver
It
a
is.
message. Yeah.
It is. And then, by the end of it because we're reading each other, over and over. And so it really helped kind of stretch our capabilities, because there's a lot of things that are at surface level and
Yeah.
you can pick up on it, but once you read the same person so many times in a row, and you have to really dig into
Mhm.
more things, the layers, and and play around with things like colors and music and things like that, and it was wonderful.
Would you say it becomes more evidential at that point that you're really going to spirit more often to say, oh, okay, give me something that no one else is going to know so they know this is you?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, that's definitely the goal. And even with clients, you want them to know for sure that you have their loved one.
Yeah, I think that's a key part of it. And believe it or not, I don't know that all people consider it this way, but when I went through training, one of the things they told us is you're not responsible to bring through a message. Spirit doesn't
Right,
always come with a message. Your job
right,
is to validate that spirit
yeah,
is there and who they were, what their life was to the best of your ability. And if they have a message, great, that's bonus.
right. Well, a
Yeah.
lot of times the evidence is the message. Hey, we're here.
It can be.
you know, yeah,
It can be, and they definitely choose specific things because they could choose so many things about themselves, but they're choosing one or two specific things that hit a point. Yeah.
sure, yeah, yeah, and leaning into that and really um, being able to paint the picture as to why they brought this forward, and the significance of that. That's usually the message, and I just really enjoy being that for someone, and being the channel and the medium.
Yeah, that really is an honor to be in that position. And it's a position that takes integrity. I've seen mediums who've lost their abilities over the years, and it was because they did things that they shouldn't have been doing. They were prying for information, they were not respecting boundaries. They were
Yeah,
kind of
I do
emotional
have that.
vampires, and their abilities just kind of whoop, dried up and gone. And I really think it's
Right.
because they have to be also doing self work. A medium
Yeah.
is only ever going to give a message as clear as they are inside. And that's
Right.
just a reality. We have to be doing our own work all the time.
Right. And we have to raise our vibration to, and they have to lower theirs and kind of meet there. And if you're not doing it for the right reasons, well, then you're not going to raise your vibration enough. And they're not going to waste their time on trying to lower theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is really beautiful, incredible work. There is nothing else like it. And it does come with extreme catharsis and healing, as you've learned firsthand.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot of looking at yourself, and even just empathizing with people, really being able to come from a place of saying, I know what this is like. I really empathize and sympathize with you. Um, and so I don't think that mediums who haven't experienced tremendous loss are doing the greatest service, because they just can't understand, and the right way to deliver a message, because you want to be really thoughtful in the way that
Yeah.
you handle that.
And there are some precarious situations that can come up with mediumship when it comes to
There
people's
are.
loved ones in spirit because their personality is still intact. And if you have someone who is a
Right.
bit of a jokester, a bit of a trickster, like to
Yeah.
embarrass their loved one, that
Yeah.
tendency doesn't just always go away. So you can really find yourself in some really interesting situations of, oh, how am I going to deliver this message and still be respectful and have it be a healing situation
Right.
and not one where the client is just like, wow, why do you know that? And I'm never coming here again kind of situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some of those more uncomfortable ones, they tend to bring it through with me in pieces, so that I'm not kind of like, oh, it's well, here's this bit of information, here's this bit of like what's kind of going on here, and then they'll say, and it's like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't have to be the one to bring that through, you know.
I've had some precarious ones over the years, and I will never forget them as a result because it's like, oh, there is no way to soften that. Thank you for that. Wow.
Right.
Couldn't have found someone else to deliver that one, huh?
Right. But at the same time, it really brings through, like you said, their
Yes.
personality, and
Yeah.
that can be so valuable to your sitter. It really can. Just to
Immensely.
know that you have them. Yeah.
I actually wasn't going to deliver that message, but I had another friend who was there who was also a medium. She's like, no, you have to give that
Yeah.
message.
Too.
And she's like, just trust me. And I did. And so when I told this really young widow who'd lost her person no less than a year before what the message was, she's like, "Oh, that's what he used to do. That was his personality. He would
Oh.
purposely do things to make me blush." And it's like, now I know
No.
it's him. That's there you go.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I love that. I love it.
Yeah. So Arthur Finley helped you become a medium. How long did it take roughly for you?
Well, when I set out on this journey, I told Spirit, okay, if this is what you want me to do, I'll give it a solid year, and I'll do as many readings as I can for free, and just really practice, learn, and see. And so that's what I did. And then I resigned from my position as county worker. And then I've just spent the last year kind of all in building my business, trying to gain clients, and just kind of put information out there to help people, because at the end of the day, that's really all I've ever wanted to do. And that's really what this is about for me. Yeah.
What
So the
are some
last
of
2 years.
yeah. What are some of your favorite clients to read for? What are their life situations that are unfolding, and how are you able to help them?
Hmm.
And if you have like a favorite case study or something, you can say it, just don't say their name.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of take notes here. Trying to think of some good ones right off the bat. One of the earlier ones that I had, which is still one of my favorites. It was actually a coworker of mine, um, and I had learned that it was the anniversary of his father's passing, and he wasn't necessarily open to the spirit world. Um,
Those are the
but
best.
yeah, yeah, and that's I think why it stuck with me. And he was just having a hard day, and I learned of why, and then I sat in silence, and I got some things. And sometimes I like to write things down ahead of time, because I sometimes I, the impressions come through so fast.
Yeah.
And I was getting like pictures of clouds and airplanes, and then stripes, and what I would do early on was I would get the information, and then I would sit with it. And if it kept coming back up, then I would deliver it, because I really wanted to be sure. And I just couldn't let go of this. I mean, the anxiety was building. Spirit was like, you're not going to think about anything else, until I just had to get it out. And, it came to be, I learned that his dad was a paratrooper in the military.
Oh.
And, that, because he was a skeptic, it really shook me, because you can actually make a difference in someone's life. And that was one of the earliest that I really resonated with, and I think of him often, because of
But that
that.
was
It
a
was
big
it was
part.
definitely
It was a big part of
it
who
was
he
a big
was.
part
That
of
was
my
his
journey. Yeah,
identity. That was his profession, his life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of during the even practicing, I didn't realize how much healing there was in me getting readings constantly, and so that's been a big part of getting going and learning about, kind of, with other mediums, how to how to work, how to read into something, and yeah. So let me see if I can get into anything here. I know I've taken the last couple weeks off, and now I'm just kind of out of sorts a bit. Um,
But it sounds like
yeah.
you have an idea. You have the idea that the skeptical people who also need the healing and maybe aren't aware of it tend to be the ones that you get the most enjoyment out of.
It is, yeah, yeah. Um, I think that's really what propels me, to do that. I've brought through so many loved ones. Another reading um, was it was actually a friend of mine where I was able to bring through her daughter that had passed on,
Yes.
and she had passed on at a really young age, and um, that was so healing, and it was, and I feel so honored at the same time. I'm just, because I didn't know much about her, but I thought, well, let me just see what I can get, and I know that that was extremely healing, and it's still, I think I've only ever brought through two children.
Yes.
um you know
It's a totally different dynamic and level of healing that needs to happen, and it's happening on both ends. And that's what makes
right.
it so profound. I've had the privilege of doing that a couple of times. Um, and one of them was not anticipated at all. I wasn't doing a mediumship reading, that wasn't the intent of it. I think
Wow.
I was actually doing an emotion code session, and I was just sharing the impressions that I was getting. And then the person came back and said, "Wait a minute, go deeper on this one or two things because I think you're picking up on something really important for me." And so I did. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that when we step forward as intuitives, when we step forward as coaches, it's really important that we don't say, "Oh, I can't," or "I don't know," if someone's asking you for something. And
Right.
instead we say, "You know what? Let me give that a shot and we'll see what happens." Not
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
promises, I don't know. And then just actually press and see if you can find the edge or the boundary of where your gifts end. Because what I've learned
Yeah.
is often there isn't. There's a lot of self imposed boundary, there's a lot of self imposed
Right.
beliefs. But often when I just open and I allow, that's when some of the really big, deep abilities come through and the impressions get so much stronger, faster, and easier. But when we're working on someone who's lost a child, oof, I
Yeah.
don't know that there's anything deeper than that, even when
Yeah.
it's been people who've been married for almost a century. They have a
Right.
certain level of peace, but losing a child, there's nothing like that. And
There's
there's
not.
always a layer of, that parent wanting to know that there's not more that they could have done.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that
And
soul
and it
had other
is.
things that had to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just such a sacred bond, It just, you know, dealing with all past loved ones, you have this responsibility, but it feels even more so when it's a child. So, you know,
And then with
and
the work
one
that
of
you do around grief, how does that
yeah.
factor in?
Well, I know that a lot of people, like I was early on, and I'm still transforming through grief. It's still comes in waves, and um, but learning to kind of take that grief and move through it and transform it into something meaningful. A lot of your standard therapies and counseling, they don't really integrate spiritualism as much as some people need.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really enjoy, bringing that level of comfort to people who are experiencing grief. Yeah. And also with the twin flame aspect of it, because that was one of the significant loss, the final of the three, in late 2023, and that really shook me. And so there wasn't a whole lot out there
Mhm.
on that, but I did learn that for the few that I had come across, and even like Reddit threads, things like that, that some of us do go on to do mediumship, and that is something that does happen. And so, I learned early on in this process that we experience those losses
Yeah.
so that we can find ourselves, and I do believe that it's part of the bigger plan.
And the
Um,
twin flame doesn't always have to be incarnated as that happens.
right.
Um, my previous friend and roommate, she actually experienced her twin flame just on the ethereal after they'd passed. So they never had an in person relationship. They never had that experience of encountering each other while they were alive. And their whole
Wow.
relationship has been on the side of spirit, but she's gone on to write books and to do mediumship and to create
Hmm.
programs just based on him being that catalyst for her. So it's a very
Oh, that's
common
amazing.
thing, where there's like
Yeah.
an they're like an energy booster. Like I know I had a twin flame. We encountered each other in real life, and I'm glad that it didn't go any
Yeah.
further.
Yeah.
So it was a dumpster fire, and you know what? At that point, for all intents and purposes, so was I. So it's fine. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's
but
common.
there was something unspeakable that happened in terms of my intuition and psychic gifts, and they just amplified immensely
Mm,
just with them being in the environment for a short period of time. It's
yeah. Yeah.
wild. It's a wild experience. Did you have any of those experiences before they passed?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Early on, years and years ago, because I was friends with him since I was a teenager, and
Yeah.
we were the type that, I would know when he was calling. I would,
Yeah.
there would be so many things that dreams. If he was in a dream and then I talked to him, he had the same dream. Things like that that were just kind of led you to say, what is this? And I do believe that a lot of that was, the little breadcrumbs along the way that were kind of trying to wake me up.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't until his passing that there was kind of that soul shock and that merging of, our souls, and that really amplified things. Yeah. Because I really went through a deep soul shock with that.
I haven't had that experience yet. Can you elaborate that on that more?
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of like that. It's kind of the way that I've described it is um, kind of losing the or what it felt like at the time, loss, losing the other half of your soul. And even though we would go periods of time without talking or anything, there was always this underlying unconditional love. And I've experienced a lot of loss, grandparents, parents, friends, uncles, you name it. I have a lot of people on the spirit side, but this loss was so much greater, I guess, in terms of pain,
Yeah.
that it really sent me down a dark path. And for no apparent reason. Even my current husband, he's very understanding, but I really had to explain this to him, like why this really shook me the way that it did.
Mhm.
And it wasn't really until I learned, because I kind of knew he was my twin flame, but when
Yeah.
I had looked into it years ago, it was so romanticized that I thought I kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
you
Cringy.
know,
Yeah.
I get some of that, and it's cringy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's cringy, and
yeah.
I
So
think a lot of people here's my gripe about twin flames and why we don't talk about it more here, with
yeah.
the many guests I've had, and it's because it is so romanticized, and the problem that I have with it is that people are so quick to give up to their own power, their own inner authority, and their
Hmm.
own ability to make choices and take action on them. And oh, that bugs me. It's like, no, don't go
Right.
into disempowerment. I'm not saying that you did. I just know that
Yeah.
happens for a lot. When you research it, that's the stuff you find. And it's like, oh,
The,
hell no.
it
You have
is.
choices. You're making choices the whole, I could have made a choice any given moment. Uh,
Right,
no,
right.
no, we have to take
Exactly.
accountability. So that's a big
Yeah.
part of
And
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and on a deeper level, they're mirroring, us.
Mm,
They are a part of us. It is our soul. Um, and
absolutely.
there's, different types of twin flames if you get into all of that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason, and we have a plan, and we come to this earth with a plan, with a purpose. Mine took an exit, and I know that with that we must have agreed on this path together because he comes through a lot, and he is, omnipresent. He's always with me. I feel that. I know that. But again, yeah, regular twin flame stuff, and even looking into it after the fact, it was so hard to get to the bottom of it, and now it really bothers me, a lot of the things that are out there about that, because it can be the same as a soulmate, but it's not necessarily.
No, because I would say my husband
Yeah,
now is absolutely my soulmate. For all
yeah,
intents and purposes, we're happy little peas in a pod over here, but, that
yes,
was an entirely different experience in terms of the energy that was occurring between us.
right,
Like, I had never experienced more telepathy or more
yeah,
clear empathy than I did when we were in each other's vicinity, and I could feel them if they were about a block away. It was intense, and then the communication happening in dreams was something else. I love my
yeah,
spouse. My spouse is amazing. We don't
yeah,
have that kind of an energetic
yeah,
situation,
yeah.
and thank God, because I think that would be a lot to live with. Like, I don't
It
think we're
is.
meant to do that in that way. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering if after that, transition, if you then found you had a greater capacity for compassion, for peace, for more nurturing and softness.
Yeah, I really do
Yeah.
believe that that helped. I mean, I felt like I took on all of the good parts of him, and
Mm,
that was kind of absorbed, and
yeah.
I have found some research that really supports that. So, that's comforting to know. But some people, they don't know. And actually, one of the readings I did a while back, I brought through this lady's, this gentleman,
Mhm.
and it ended up being her twin flame, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until I compared it
Mhm.
to, because I hadn't felt anything else like that, and I thought, so I brought it up,
Yeah.
and she said, I wondered, she said, he passed, it had been like 20 or 30 years ago. She said, I can never stop thinking about him. She said, I don't know why.
Mm,
She said, sometimes I think I'm going crazy, but he's
mm.
just always there in the back of my mind. And it wasn't until I really went into this, and it really opened her eyes to see that that's a thing, and it really can shake your soul. And it's not meant to leave you. It's meant to
Yeah.
guide you.
I know what the experience is like having gone through it being spiritually open. I can't imagine what that would be like going through
Yeah.
it and not hearing your guides and not having awareness of clairempathy or clairvoyance or clairsentience, because for me, all of those things opened substantially. Like, I think the lever went up to 200% more.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
even before we met in person, there was a moment where I could actually hear communication happening, and I would have thought I was crazy had I not been in and open to this stuff already. But I heard in my
Yeah.
mind, "Are you going to run?"
Mm.
And that
Mm.
day, I was like, "Why would I run? You run." I was feeling a little cocky that day, albeit that was
Yeah,
not my
yeah.
nature,
The
but that day I
typical
did.
runner chaser dynamic. Yeah.
And I didn't know about that. So it just goes
Okay.
to show that
Yeah,
that is part of the path sometimes, that sometimes we're just meant to
it
be near
is.
each other for an energetic boost to
Right.
catalyze some lessons to get things rolling. And my self-love did kick off at that moment, in a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
way. Because it's like, oh yeah, had I chosen to stay in my shadow, had I chosen to not
Right.
self-develop or any of those things, oh, I could have made a big mess. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's not very many people that can have a long-term relationship with their twin flame because the energy is so intense. and
That
it's
would be
just
so
constant
much.
mirror.
So much to
Yeah.
live with. No, thank you. No.
Yeah. No. Right.
I like my sanity. I like not hearing
Yeah.
other people's thoughts on a regular basis unless I choose to.
Absolutely. Right.
We got way off track, but talk to me more about your mediumship, about your coaching, about what really brings it to life for you these days now that you've post graduated from Arthur Finley.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've just really been enjoying talking to people about, you know, grief, and at the same time, I'm still developing myself. I'm still learning. I'm still, getting to the bottom of who I am. And I just know that, well, originally I thought mediumship was it. That's what I'm gonna do. But I wanted to take it a step further. And like I said, because of my own experience, I wanted to be able to help people through the process, because an awakening is, it's almost more than you can handle. It really takes you to the edge. And having someone who's been through it that you can talk with,
Yeah.
that that's very vital. And don't feel uh, some people don't feel like they can open up with just a therapist or something like that. Whereas, like I said, with the spiritual aspect, that really brings it
And that
further.
is a
And so
time when
that's
a
what
lot of
I,
people find themselves in psychiatric holds and needing assessments because they
yeah,
have no one else to open up to. And then they start questioning their sanity when
right,
very, very real things are happening to them. And it's not schizophrenia. You know?
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that if I hadn't been open to spirituality,
Yeah.
I would have had to check myself in somewhere, you
And
know.
sometimes people do, and they go to a therapist
Yeah,
that isn't familiar with the spiritual, that hasn't had those experiences. And so the person doesn't know, and they're trying to do, in their best with
right.
what they've been taught for their profession. Sometimes it
Yeah. And
doesn't
then
give
they
the
end up
best.
on the wrong medication,
Yeah,
you
or
know.
on medication that they maybe don't even need to be when
Right.
what they're experiencing is actually natural, is valid, and there are just things they need to understand. I remember when I saw
Right.
you when you came for IEMT, I think at that point you were still questioning some things, like you were still questioning clairvoyance and how the impressions worked and came in and out. And so we kind of sat and had a
Yeah.
chat about that. And it's like, no, this is so mundane. You're doing it so many
Yeah.
times a day, you don't even realize you're doing it
Don't
because it's
even
part of
realize it.
everyday life, because it's natural.
Right.
It's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And all of those over the years, those, random impressions or things I would see in my third eye, that really started to make sense. And now I know, well, I'm either picking up psychically or mediumistically. Um, so it all made sense to me then. And most people are capable of that. And, maybe they're not meant to do it professionally, but they're most certainly meant to hear their loved ones, one way or another, and know that they're with them. Uh, so I really enjoy, helping people through that.
Yeah. How would you say when you're doing your readings, it comes through for you the most? Are you more clairvoyant? Is it a blend of clairempathy or claircognizance? What is it like mostly? Or
Really,
how much does it vary, I should
clairvoyance.
say?
Yeah, yeah. Clairvoyance is my strongest clair. Claircognizance, I would say next. Um, and sometimes clairaudient. That's not a regular clair that I've exercised, but I take it. I get more clairaudience for myself, um, and that was some of the earliest signs I knew that this was, which direction this was going to take, because I was hearing it. And I started really paying attention to discernment and kind of my thoughts.
Yeah.
And one thing I like to tell people is to kind of sit, you know, quiet alone and just have some dialogue with yourself and pay attention to where these thoughts are coming from, because it really does matter. There's, my twin flame, he comes in over here. My imagination is up here. My third eye is right here, and so it's fun to kind of play around with where it's coming in at, kind of your antennas.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of start to make sense of it that way.
And then I would say animal communication is even different still.
It is.
Sometimes I catch myself and I'm seeing things from their perspective, from like through their eyes, and then there are other times where I'm feeling things in their body, and so it's all different places. But it is so important, no matter what kind of readings we're doing, that it is really just saying it as we're experiencing it. I find that has the most value, and it changes a lot. So it was not a helpful question, because after thinking about it, it's like, Amanda, you know this, you know that it changes per spirit, that spirit is always going to have different things that they're stronger and better at. You say you're more clairaudient on your own, and it could just be that you haven't read for someone that has a loved one in spirit that's very vocal.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's going to come, and you're going to be like, oh, there it is. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
That does.
that spirit's ability. Yeah.
Right. Right. And they tend to, how do I put this? Like when I saw it a lot at like Arthur Finley, and when I practice with other mediums, is
Yeah.
they'll kind of pick up on the strength of that medium, and
Yeah.
what kind of, depending on what they're going to bring through, is like what your strength is. And
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely.
It's just the best fiber optic connection that can happen is the one they're going to go
Right.
for. The connection
Right.
that's got the most juice and charge
Yeah.
and stability is the one that they'll use.
Yeah.
But they are pretty resourceful. And then again, so are we. And,
Right.
and that's just it. It's amazing to me that there are people who still don't know that they have this naturally, that it's available. And that, yeah, our loved ones, for the most part, are good. They don't
Yeah.
need anything, they don't want anything. They just are bathed in love 24 hours a day, and their biggest
Right.
concern at the end of the day is
Yeah.
us when we're feeling bad about them.
Right, absolutely. And that's one of the hardest things as a medium, is to hear people think that their loved ones are upset with them. And it's like, no, that couldn't be further from the truth. They support you, and no matter what, anything that you could even ever want for yourself, they're
Yeah.
your cheerleader. They want that for you. Anything you want, they want. And there's no resentment, there's no fear, there's nothing like that on the other side. So it hurts my heart sometimes when people are so fearful, or think that there is some tension there. There isn't.
And more often than not, that's ego, that's self-imposed, that's the ways that, they're blaming themselves and wishing that they had done differently. My hair is bugging me
Right.
today. Um, but it's always our own stuff. It's very rarely. I've not had, okay, that's not entirely fair. I have had one or two readings where spirit was not angry, but it's like, man, yeah, you kind of did that, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
But there was no
They like to bring it
standing
to your
resentment.
attention.
It's just like, yeah, you kind of went there. You did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not in a harsh way. And it's not, there's no residual anger. There's none of that. I've had that experience with Source. And I think I told you about it when my ferret had passed. And then I had the realization of, oh, this is where we come from. This is where we go back to. And even though consciously I knew she had died and that I should be sad,
Yeah.
emotionally I couldn't get there because I wanted for nothing. All of my needs were met, and there was just this palpable love energy. And it's like,
Yeah.
if we each felt that once as standard human beings, if it was standard
Right.
issue and everybody went through that, the world would be
Yeah.
vastly different, because we
Yeah.
would just know
Pet
we
loss
belong to
is
each other.
right. Yeah. Pet loss is so significant. I think, people don't give it enough credit for, as rough as that can be. So it really helps to know that there's more to this. If you don't, I mean, it's just such a tremendous loss, because it's that unconditional love. There's no replacing it. And to believe that it just dies, and uh, it breaks my heart. So yeah.
And that's the connection that we have every day. It's not like mom or dad. Once you leave home, you don't resume, that proximity, that closeness, whereas your fur friends, they're there everywhere. I can't do anything in this
Yeah.
house without 5 little pairs of eyes watching what I'm doing, and that's because the ferrets are in a separate cage and they can't follow. Like, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it is really profound, and I think a lot of people don't understand the level of grief that does happen. And so
Right.
when you're doing your mediumship work, you're willing to read people who have lost their loved ones, but also their pets.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes they show up. I don't even have to try. I haven't kind of trained myself in any capacity to be necessarily a pet medium, but they make their appearances, and I love that because sometimes, you know, people, it might not be in the forefront of their mind. They're waiting to hear from grandma, mom, dad, um, and then grandma, mom, or dad brings through, their dog, and it's like that's what they needed to hear, actually.
Yeah. And it's different energy because they come through unapologetic. They're nothing but excitement and love. And, sometimes loved ones in spirit, especially if they passed and they had guilt or shame about the way they treated you. Some of them can be
Hmm.
kind of sheepish coming in and not be so ready
Right.
and upfront to talk, but pets aren't like that at all.
No.
They come through and it's this big rush of happy childhood energy. And for a medium, that just hits us and we're like, oh wow, they're cutting the
Yeah,
line here. Yeah.
it is a lovely energy. It is. Yeah.
Okay. And so when people book with you for a reading, what is that process like?
Well, they're able to do so on my website at it's guidedlights.net.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I offer many different types of readings, grief counseling, twin flame, even soulmate, any profound loss, really. I'd love to help you through it. And so, yeah, I offer all of that on my website.
That is fantastic that you're out there doing this work. Just as a fellow light worker, it always lights me up and brings me joy. Just that you were able to do all the things that you wanted to do and you set out to, it just makes me smile every single day knowing that you're now out there doing this work and helping
Thank you.
other people find their way, find their comfort and their healing.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And you've been a part of that for me, and you helped heal me. And yeah,
You did
so
that on your
I,
own.
I appreciate you as well.
I'm not responsible for what clients choose to do or choose not to do. You came to do the work, and that's the best way. Yeah, and it's the same for when people come and see you and they're working through that grief or they're wanting to connect with their loved ones. It takes a certain level of openness to come for a reading. If you're coming
Right,
for a reading and you're booking a reading and you're wanting so and so to be the first through the gate and you have all these conditions and constraints, you're strangling the energy out of the reading. Like, just stay
right,
home at that point.
right.
It's not
Just
helpful.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Got to be open minded, or you're really doing yourself a disservice.
What do you recommend when people come and see you to get the most out of their readings and time with you?
Oh, well, just that openness. No expectations, no keywords. Because you're just going to be disappointed, and just be open so that your loved ones know. They can tell if there's a resistance there, and really, it's all about just proving, that life continues. So just not having any expectations, and willingness to just be open. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you require them to believe in the process?
No, I don't. Just openness, curiosity, goes a long way. If you're curious, give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen?
Absolutely. And any other experiences that you'd like to share today?
um, Nothing that comes to mind. I don't think. Just yeah, I just know that this is what I want to do, and I'm just getting started. So you know, yeah, that's it. I haven't offered, I haven't done any in-person readings, but there is the option, if that is something that someone wants, that can be arranged. So, just know that there's options. If you resonate with me, just give it a shot. You know,
Yeah. And also that it works. It doesn't have to be in person. It works just as well virtually.
absolutely,
It could
yeah.
be a Facebook chat message is what I've learned. It doesn't
I
even
know.
require yeah, it doesn't even require
Or
face to face.
right, some mediums do just email versions. I don't know how that would go, but
I did. I did for a long, long time. One of the
It-
practices that one of my teachers taught me was a letter from a loved one. And essentially, what I would do is my clients would find me usually through referral because I didn't even really put it out there that I was offering this. And like I said, I did that one emotion code reading, and then intuition was wide open. I had extra information. She turned around and said, "Oh, I want to book a mediumship reading," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And off we went. And from there, referral after referral came. And so I wasn't necessarily ready to step into that work in the way that it was ready to move through me. Those things are not
yeah,
always paired at exactly the same place. And so most of my
right,
people would contact me via email, and I wouldn't have any knowledge or insight about them. All I would know is maybe their name and their email,
yeah,
and then the series of questions that they wanted to ask. And so I did it in a way that was really kind of what they call a blind reading.
yeah,
And I preferred that because I couldn't get in my own way. And I also wasn't going to be swayed by anything. And that way I knew the
right,
impressions I was getting were purely what I was getting. So I would sit and
right,
meditate for about, 10, 15 minutes, get into the right vibration. It took me a lot longer back then.
yeah,
And I would sit and I would first write out all of the impressions that I had about their loved one, about their life, about their relationship. Sometimes it would answer some of the questions that they'd ask, sometimes it wouldn't. And then from there, I would take a break, go do something else, have a bath. That's my solution to everything in
yeah.
life. Have a bath with Epsom salts. Again,
Very
it's just
grounding.
raising vibration, getting me into the right state.
Mhm.
And then I would actually allow their loved one to channel through me and write to their loved one.
Okay,
So it was a
yeah,
letter from their loved one in spirit, which is incredibly vulnerable and uncomfortable of a way to do a mediumship reading, but I'm glad I did it that way because it really developed me.
okay, I like
And
that.
again, it was kind of Tyler Henry style. Don't have to know you, don't have to know anything about you. And here's what I'm getting, and here's what I've got, and here's what they say.
Wow,
Um,
yeah. We actually
Sometimes
did
it would
some
be,
practicing at Arthur Finley with that.
did
You
you?
know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was one of our practice things that we did, and so yeah, I could see where that would be valuable and how and why someone would
Yeah.
want that. Yeah,
It was at times, and then there were other times where I got in my own way because it's a huge amount of pressure. And so people would be responding back, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive
mm,
and shocking. And sometimes it scared me a little. It made me uncomfortable at how accurate that was. And I really didn't want that life or to be known for that specifically. So for me, it was like, I'd prefer not to. And then I could
yeah,
see that some people were kind of getting really addicted to the process and they really wanted to rely on me. And it's like, no, I'd really rather you become empowered um,
right,
through knowing you could connect to your loved one. So that's when I kind of stepped away from that and went in a different direction. But it
yeah,
is entirely possible. And so readings, they don't have to happen face to face, they don't have to happen over the
right,
phone. It really depends on the medium. I know some
yeah,
mediums who have to hear their sitter's voice because that's how they connect best.
yeah,
And they use that energy to connect. I know some readers who have to hold the hand of their sitter because they need that kinesthetic touch to connect. I think it just
yeah. I
depends
just
on the abilities.
Yeah, I suspect that that might be that way for me. I feel like
Yeah.
seeing and hearing them is where I really get the connection. But I wouldn't know until I gave it a shot.
Yeah. And I hate to affirm this out loud, but I'm trying to stop affirming this out loud. One thing I've had a hard time with is names. Names do not always come through clear for me. And what I did learn
Mm,
is if the sitter tells me the name of the person they're trying to connect with, I can actually use that energetic signature and follow that all the way
oh,
through to the person and get more information that way. So
okay,
it's good, I think,
that
if you're
makes
going to go
sense.
for a reading to ask the reader, hey, how do you connect best? They'll tell you,
Yeah,
they'll know.
right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I think you kind of nailed it with the open mind, no expectations. Just be
Yeah.
present. You don't have to
Yeah.
agree with everything. You don't have to bobblehead. You don't
Right.
have to give anything away at all if you don't want to. But
Right.
just
Yeah.
with
Less
the
is
energy
more.
clear. Yes, less is
Yeah.
definitely more. Yeah, I usually tell people I don't do readings anymore, but when I did, I would usually say, "Hey, hold the stories for later. Just yes, no,
Right.
maybe on things, and then you can tell me afterwards, but let me get it all the
Right.
way out." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to know anything. And, and even feedback, it's kind of like, okay, wait, give me, let me get going here. And then you can let me know. But
Yeah.
absolutely. It just really gets in the way.
Oh, because at the end of the day, we're still human. And of course, we want, the sitter, the person who's receiving the reading, to have the best possible connection and experience. We have hearts. So
Right.
if you share something
Right.
with me, of course, I want the best outcome and it will cloud my judgment 100%.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you're working with readings, you're doing coaching, and you're doing animal communication. Anything on the horizons?
Uh, Not much. I'm going to be looking into working at some metaphysical fairs this spring and just kind of getting out there and doing as much as I can. Hoping possibly going back to Arthur Finley this coming year. Not
Oh,
sure if that's going to
yay.
happen yet,
Yeah.
but that would be ideal. Um, I definitely um, I definitely will be going eventually again because it's just wonderful, And
Would
in
you repeat
England, why wouldn't I
this?
want to go?
Yeah. Would you repeat the same trainings, or are there different levels that you would then pursue, or different things?
I would probably go to a level up. The one that I did was pure mediumship, evidential,
Mhm.
and they have it on more of a professional level and
Yeah.
higher, So
Yeah.
yeah,
But what a journey from grief, bereavement, loss, spiritual awakening, straight through to stepping into your empowerment and now being a resource for others.
yeah, it's been quite the journey, and it's only been 2 years that I really set out and started thinking about this. So I look forward to continuing and seeing where else it leads. Because there's so much to explore. There really, really is. And even with hypnotherapy, that's one of the things, that really interests me.
Mhm.
Being able to bring through messages that way too.
Mhm.
A lot of the great mediums did that, and
Yeah.
it's very fascinating to me. So
I
it's
mean, Edgar
not
Casey.
off the table. Yeah,
That
yeah,
was Edgar Casey's MO, was self-hypnosis. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, because of that connection with mediumship and hypnotherapy, I do it an entirely different way. So, as I said, I don't do readings anymore. And that's
yeah.
because I would much rather just put people in trance and have them have their own experience. It's just so much more profound that way. Not to
That
say
is,
that a
yeah,
reading
that's amazing.
isn't, a reading is wonderful, particularly if you
Yeah,
can't get into a space of openness or vibration. You might need to get a few mediumship readings before you come see someone like me, because I'm going to need you to be past that grief. I'm going to need you to be a little
yeah,
further along to be able to open that door at that level. So,
right.
readings are profound and important. It's just very, very
Yeah,
different. I find a different layer of catharsis that can happen. Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah, definitely, I would have to be more open. Yeah,
Yeah. And it does. Hypnosis is beautiful, but it does take a different level of vibration and presence and openness, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why the two still really work well together.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much to explore. I've only just begun. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. In the next little while, I will do my best to update the show notes. And if someone is looking for you, guidedlights.net is the best way to get hold of you.
Yes, that's right.
All right. All right, soulful seekers. If you're wanting to explore mediumship reading, animal communication, or you're working through some grief, you've just had a chance to get to know Jen. Reach out, have a conversation with her, and see if you would be compatible to work on your journey together. Otherwise, stay happy, stay healthy, stay well, but most of all, stay inspired. Bye for now.